Hi, I'm Elle Ingalls, CEO and founder of Pressure Free Living. And I thought I'd take a moment to tell you how I actually created my business and this whole concept of pressure free living. In 2010, I wanted to start my own business. My husband and I had devoted our careers to running music nonprofits in our community. So we don't have a lot of retirement money, and now we're sending our kids off to college. So I thought, okay, we need to do something different. So in my goal journal, I wrote, I want to create a business using my own gifts and talents, a for-profit business. I went down to the library, started pulling some books off the shelves about creating a small business. Then I came across a CD book by Robert Allen and Mark Victor Hansen called Cash in a Flash. This book really intrigued me, so I went ahead and got the hard copy of the book, and then the prequel to that, which is 1 Minute Millionaire, plus the set of CDs for 1 Minute Millionaire. For the next 3 months, all I listened to and all I read were those two books. Normally I have a lot of different music on. I'm a classical violinist, so I have classical music on or current music on when I'm doing dishes or whatever it is I'm doing, driving in the car. But I devoted myself to only listening to their voices as I was going to create this business of mine. Now, it's one thing to read and listen. It's another to actually act and do the things that the books and the audios are telling you to do. But I was really persistent about it. No, I didn't do everything in these books, but I did do some things. One of the chapters talked about putting a mentor in my life. I made a list of people that I thought could be potential mentors for me. And I thought about it and thought about it and looked at these names, but it didn't really feel right. So I shelved that and thought, I'll just let Robert Allen and Mark Victor Hansen be my mentors, my electronic mentors. The next thing I did was some social networking, which I'd always refused to do before. But in these books, they were urging to start doing that so you build networks of friends. So I got on Facebook for the first time and LinkedIn and all of those other types of social networks. I actually am on Twitter now too. And so I started doing that and made lists of friends. Well, as I was building those friends, there were some more options for people who might become my mentor. I started having some conversations over the internet with a couple of people, and one surfaced that I thought, okay, this person could really help me out. So I wrote an email where I laid out exactly what I was looking for, someone who would meet with me every couple of weeks and seriously critique what I was trying to do. And the last line I wrote in the email was, someone who would push me beyond my greatest dreams. My parents are deceased, and if they were still alive, they would be sounding boards for me as I'm going forward in this new venture. But since I didn't have that, I wanted someone who would be really, really honest with me. And then I pushed the send button. Do you ever push the send button on a message and then think, oh, what have I done? Well, that's kind of what happened here. I pushed the send button, and thank goodness I didn't have to wait too long for a reply. My mentor, the person who became my mentor, agreed to meet with me. So we had our first meeting. At that point, all of my businesses were financial in nature. I was creating some financial courses for individuals and seniors, kind of this budgeting method that I created years and years ago, and I've taught to nonprofits over the years. So I shared these ideas with him, and he critiqued them and gave me some ideas and thoughts, and so I'm listing all these things to do. And then he said to me, you know, I've read your bio, and you have many different talents. I think you need to stay open, that there's something else that you should be creating rather than these financial businesses. And I was kind of frustrated by that because I'd already put 3 months of work into this initiative. But I decided, okay, I'm going to stay open because something else might pop up or come along that might be more worthy of my time and effort. Meanwhile, I went back and started looking through my old goal journals to see if there was something that would surface there. And interestingly enough, nothing did that night. However, 2 nights later, just 2 nights, we were all, my family, my sons and my husband and I, were all sitting around our dining room table, which is right smack dab in the center of our home, and we were talking about the team that my sons were going to be playing with in the spring. And my eldest son said, this team has what it takes to go all the way. We could be state champs. Very, very talented team. And I said, except for one thing, your team needs more mental toughness, because when the going gets tough, you don't rally. He said, Mother, you should teach the boys all that you know about this mental toughness, what you teach us and what you teach all your violin students and what you exhibit yourself. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. I know a lot about this. But I thought he was joking, really, so I kind of laughed it off. And he said, no, I'm serious. And I looked at him and said, you want me in the dugout? And they're like, yeah. So I looked at my middle son, who was playing on the team, and he said, we want you, Mom. So with their encouragement, I started writing. And all these thoughts and ideas just started flowing out of me. Some of the things I was learning in Cash in a Flash. Some of the things are things that I've used for 30, 40 years as a performing violinist and a conductor, and as an executive as well. So I started writing and writing and writing, and it literally was effortless. My husband's a graphic artist, so he tightened up my writing, he's also a writer, and put some neat graphics with it. And by the end of the weekend, I had this little baseball pamphlet. I took it to the coaches, and they agreed to let me work with the boys. And the head coach actually hired me to be his own coach. I also had a meeting with my department chair at the college where I teach. I told her what I was working on, and she took her checkbook right out and said, I want to take your course. So in 1 week, out of nothing that I had the week before, I suddenly had 2 paying clients and a whole baseball team to teach these mental toughness techniques to. Now, it was going to get much deeper really, really fast, because I realized that as I taught these mental toughness techniques, it wasn't enough to stay stress-free right before the event, right before the big game, right before the meeting. Our bodies and our minds need to stay stress-free all day so that when we get to the big event, everything is working optimally for us. Because when you release the stress hormones in you, it takes the male body up to 9 hours to recover, and the female body up to 24 hours. Well, that's too long if you want to perform well in your day. Anyway, I started doing more and more research, gathering more and more information, and writing like I'd never written in my life. Then I had my second meeting with my mentor. And when I walked in and told him that I was on something completely different, he just got this great big smile on his face. Ever since then, I've worked with hundreds of people, 817 to be exact, on this day, which is August in 2012. So over 800 people since April of 2010. And I've shared these tools that I'm sharing in my courses with you. I've worked with a convention, taught to jewelers at a convention. I've taught with many, many sports teams at the high school and at the college level. Gosh, there isn't really anybody kind of person that I haven't coached. All different ages. My youngest one-on-one client has been 11, and my eldest has been 79. Paying clients. I also work with family members who are even older than that. So pressure-free living has become my life. And I wrote our first book, my husband and I wrote our first book in July of 2010. Now we're working on 2 more books as we're launching a whole new internet course. The possibilities are truly endless, because stress is such an epidemic in our society. And I've created a very fast and simple way to show people how to live stress-free. In the moments. We catch it in the moment that it's starting to happen. And when you start living stress-free day after day after day, your body and your mind start to reflect that. And I'd like to share a little bit of my own story about it, because I really think it's pretty amazing. I thought I was a fairly calm person. Where do you fall on the stress continuum? Do you get stressed out a little bit in your day? Or are you a hot mess? Some of my clients say, I am just a hot mess. So what are you? Where do you fall? I thought that I fell really, really low on that stress continuum, because I didn't get very angry and I didn't get very anxious. And those are the 2 emotions that I'd always linked to stress. I've read many books about it, and anxiety, performance anxiety, is huge. and that can really trigger our stress response. And then getting angry. When we get angry, we're very apt to, if not every single time, release the stress response and release all these stress hormones in our body. But there are two other emotions that I started to realize also release the stress hormones in people. One is annoyance. That's mine. I get annoyed at things, all kinds of tiny little things. Sometimes the annoyance boils up to true anger, but a lot of times it's just simply annoyance. And then feeling ashamed. This is something I added really in the last 6 months when I was working with a family and I saw one of the family members actually release their stress hormones over feeling ashamed about something. And I thought, whoa, that's another A. There's actually a fifth A. The fifth A is one I use specifically with a client who opens up to me about something like this, and that A is abuse. If you've had any sort of abuse in your life, whether it's physical or verbal, you can actually trigger the stress response much faster and easier than others because you have experienced physical threat on a regular basis, and so you're apt to trigger those stress hormones more than other people are. All right, where am I? So how has it really worked for me? Well, again, I said I thought it was fairly calm. However, it was annoyance. I would release my stress hormones over little tiny things. So as I started using this imaginary tool belt that I give my clients, I call it a construction worker tool belt that you strap on, and it's filled with tools that I share with you in my course. I started using these tools, and things started to happen within weeks for me. The first thing that I noticed was that I seemed to have more time in my day. Why? I wasn't worrying so much. I wasn't worrying, nagging, complaining, blaming, shaming. All these negative habits and emotions, I wasn't doing it as much anymore because I was choosing to not react to those 4A emotions, to feeling anxious, angry, annoyed, or ashamed. And when I stopped reacting, then I had more time in my day because those negative emotions were taking me out of time. They were taking up time of mine that I could have been using in a different way, in a more positive way. About 3 months in, I noticed vast changes in my own body. First of all, stress fat. All in through here, I used to have fat, and I couldn't get rid of it. No matter what I did, no matter what kind of ab workout, or I was a distance runner for many years, and I'd still have this fat right up in here in the top part of my torso. And it's gone now. I still have some a little bit lower, but this fat in here is completely gone. There are massive changes in this area of the body because this is where that stress fat builds up. In our arteries on the inside, and then in our breasts and in our torso in here. Stress fat is terrible for the human body. It actually starts to trigger more and more problems when you build it here as well. So that's what I noticed about 3 months in. Another thing I noticed is the eczema. This hand here used to be covered in eczema. The first time that I had a big violin competition, when I was about 13 or so, this hand developed the eczema so seriously that this knuckle here has pretty much been cracked and open and bleeding for 35 years. Summer of 2010, this hand suddenly was completely clear, and it still is. I can actually let you see it. Now, it was pretty ugly to have the eczema on this hand because that's my bow hand, so this would be all nasty. I cried actually when I touched the skin here for the first time. Mosquito bites too. I used to get an insect bite and it would blow up big and red, and it would last for about 2 weeks. Now it's a tiny red dot and it disappears in a matter of days. Let's see, what else have I noticed? My body feels younger. My joints feel more supple. I actually feel extremely young, like 20 or 30 years younger than I am actually, but when I'm honest about it. My hair is actually very gray. I was prematurely gray, and stress hormones actually kill the stem cells of your hair. And I have dye on my hair right now, but actually new growth of my hair is turning dark again. So it'll be interesting what color my hair is when I stop dyeing my hair again. Let's see, what other things have I noticed? those are kind of the physical things that I personally have noticed. Skin is just such a better quality. It's smoother, it's healthier, it glows, um, which skin is our largest organ. So when our immune system and our inflammatory systems are up and high and working well for us, then all these little things that we would get, bruises, heal much faster for me. Muscle pulls, things like that, heal much faster for me now. Oh, and I'm rarely, if ever, sick. Where's wood? I always knock on wood. um, I haven't been ill in 2 years, 2.5 years now. So ever since I created Pressure-Free Living, my immune system is up. So when other people are ill and I'm around them, I don't seem to catch it. Which other clients of mine have said, yes, their immune systems are much higher now, less allergies, all sorts of digestive things can change and improve. Stress basically creates so much disease in our body, dis-ease, and it really, really is an instigator of your chronic diseases like cancers and heart disease, inflammation, anything that is, when we suppress that immune system and suppress that inflammatory response, we're just going to be much more prone to disease. I choose to say, no, I don't want it anymore. I'll never go back to the old me. There's years when I had stress, acne, and all this stuff, and to look at my face now, I'm like, wow, I'll take it. We'll go with that. So much nicer, so much healthier. Let's see, what else would I like to share with you? Oh, relationships. This is a big one. I urge my clients, when you work with me, to make sure you let the people that you live with and the people with whom you work know that you're doing this pressure-free living thing, because you will be different. One of my clients was smiling more, and her coworkers didn't know how to deal with that. They'd never seen her smile so much. So let people know. My husband actually thought that I had stopped caring about the family when I was working with my tools and trying not to release the stress hormones, because I stopped worrying. And I wasn't all frantic all the time about little tiny things, all those little annoyances. Your family and your coworkers are used to you acting a certain way. And when you start using pressure-free living as a way of life, then you're going to be different. So it's a good idea to let them know. It wasn't until my husband actually took a session with me that it all made sense to him. And now he doesn't want me the other way. In fact, we as a family, we all help each other out. If we see one of us starting to stress out, we call it going under the line, we help each other out so that we don't do it. One of my sons early on in Pressure-Free Living said that we as a family argue 80% less to one of his friends. 80% less. Pretty much we rarely, if ever, argue at all, because we know that if we start to argue with each other, boom, 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 there goes the heart rate, there go the stress hormones, we're going to be toast. And we're not going to get to solution. We're just going to be mad at each other, and it's just not worth it. When you truly love these people, you want them to stay pressure-free. You don't want them to release their stress hormones at all. It's a totally different way of living, and it's really difficult for me to explain until you start to experience. Some of my clients who've been living this way now for 2 years, I look into their face and I know that they're different. I can see it. It's all over their face. Their brows are no longer furrowed like this. Their jaws are not tight. They're not grinding their teeth at night anymore. Their faces are glowing with energy, because when you stop releasing those stress hormones, your body truly heals at night and rests. So when you wake up the next day, you've got energy. You're not fatigued. That's why some people have really serious problems with fatigue. They release so much of those stress hormones that the body's taking the whole night just trying to clear out the cells. Let's see, what else can I share with you? I really invite you to consider taking my course and learning what it's all about. At least do session 1. Take session 1. You'll get so much just from session 1. I give you so much in every one of these sessions because I want you to get it. I want you to understand how to make this transformation. Um, the people who do it, who go all the way and really commit and use their 9 tools and make this transformation out of stress and into a life full of energy and power and calmness, they don't ever want to go back. They've mastered it. It takes a little bit of time sometimes. We have real serious mental habits and ways of doing things, and in session 4 I break all of that for you, and we really delve deep into the mind so that you can make pressure-free living your life, part of your life. Healing and health, so worth it. Session 6 I go deep into time management and life crafting. When you're on a mission, when you have purpose, it really fuels all of this to be healthy and to be working in a good direction. The first 3 sessions, by the way, the first one, I clearly let you know what stress is, what it's doing to your body and to your mind, so you build true compelling reasons to just say no to triggering the stress response. Then in the second session, I build my set of 9 tools for you, the very first set of 9 tools that can be used separately and in little systems. So I really go in depth about how they can work for you in your life. Each one of us is so unique, so you're going to be choosing the tools that work in your situations to keep you stress-free. Then session 3, that's my recovery tools. About a year into pressure-free living, I realized that I needed to create a set of tools for people to use when they do trigger the stress response, because we're human. It happens. It's happened about 26 days in 2 years' time for me, where it probably used to be about 26 times an hour. So I've made a great deal of progress. I've even gone as many as 30 days without a big release of the stress hormones, and so more than about a month actually. It's possible. Some people look at me and say that can't be possible. Something's going to make you feel angry or anxious or annoyed or ashamed so much that you release the stress hormones. But once you start to craft new habits and actually use these tools, is there anything worth screwing our bodies up for that many hours? 9 for men, 24 for women? I just don't think so. It's just not worth it. I've said no. It's just not worth it. Even when there's something really bad that happens or calamitous, I want to stay in my genius zone to be able to get to solution instead of releasing those stress hormones where I'm not going to be thinking clearly. I'm not going to be thinking well. Well, I hope I've intrigued you. I hope I've intrigued you enough to say, okay, I'm going to try at least that session 1. It's a beautiful session. We'll get started right away, give you great stuff right up front. Plus, if you order the introductory session, you'll get my 21-day course. That is full of these quick little videos to help you day by day stay on the pressure-free living path with me. Very, very powerful. You'll also get an audio and you'll get some written material too. If you take my full-blown course, which is Quantum Leap, you get 6 videos, 6 audios, 2 PDF books, and the whole 21-day series. And then I have a product in the middle. I call it Jumpstart, to jumpstart you up. And that's the first 3 sessions in video and audio and the first PDF book. So jump in here with me. It's so worth it. It's really, really, really worth it to understand what stress really is and how it messes with us so that you can just say no to it. Great way to live, great way to be. I'm Elle with Pressure Free Living.